This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Passion. People are searching for it like Indiana Jones on a quest to discover a long-lost artifact. But is it something that we can just find? Joining me today is Karen Putz, known as the Passion Mentor and author of Unwrapping Your Passion. And Karen is here to share how you can unwrap your passion at any age. Karen is deaf, and she's using a special app for captioning. Welcome to the roller coaster, Karen. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing fantastic today.
Great. So where does your story begin, and where does helping other people find their passion? How did that become your passion?
First of all, I think that we get hung up on the idea of finding our passion. The thing is, passion is within us. It is a gift that we actually unwrap by our decisions, by how we choose to live, by what we do. So passion is not this elusive thing that we have to go searching for to find. It's actually something that we create within us.
So how did this become important for you? Where in your story did this come into play?
Okay, so first of all, I was born with normal hearing, and I can remember being able to hear when I was a young child. I started losing my hearing in elementary school. And then in high school, I discovered the sport of barefoot water skiing. And that sport is simply water skiing on your bare feet at a high rate of speed. So I loved that sport. That was to say that I was passionate about that sport. I was crazy about it. And then one day I turned to cross the wake and I just flew into the water, crashed. When I got into the boat, I had become deaf. Only I didn't realize it. I thought I had water in my ear, But being deaf was there to stay. As you can imagine, it was a really dark time in my life. And I really struggled with the struggle growing up hard of hearing. Here I am, I'm deaf. Fortunately for me, I woke up one day and I made a decision to embrace the journey. I decided this is my life, this is what it was going to be. I learned sign language, met my husband. We have 3 kids who had the same gene that I have, and they were all born with normal hearing. They all became deaf in different ways. So they didn't become deaf from barefoot water skiing, that's for sure. Fast forward to the age of 44. My husband sent me a link to a Today Show segment, and on the Today Show was this 66-year-old woman barefoot water skiing with this huge smile on her face. And I'm looking at that and I'm doing the math and I'm thinking, wait a minute, 44 is not old. All of a sudden I realized I had 22 years ahead of me to catch up, to do what she's doing. It reframed everything about midlife, about aging, about getting older in that one moment of seeing this 66-year-old woman doing something that I thought I couldn't do again because I was too old. And that simple thing just started me on the road back to rediscovering passion. I met this woman, Judy. She introduced me to the World Barefoot Champions, and I trained with them for 4 years and competed. And so now I'm on a quest to share everything that I've learned about passion with other people in midlife and beyond, so that you're going to have that best, amazing second half of life.
So what are some of the ways that, if somebody's listening and they're realizing that life is a little stale, what are some of the ways that they could start to unwrap and rediscover what their passion is?
Mhm. Great question. First of all, the definition of passion. I interviewed over 200 people for the book Unwrapping Your Passion. And one person, Jackie Saint said to me, passion is your joy. That little sentence right there puts everything in perspective, because we know what joy looks like to ourselves. If we look back at our past, if we think about what we want to do, if we think about what's on our someday list, we can identify joy instantly. And joy is connected to passion. So one clue, obviously, is reconnecting with your joy. What are the things that you do that bring you joy? What does joy mean or look like for you? For every person, passion is different. And that's the beauty of it. You can define it in whatever way you define passion. Now, what I have not figured out in all this 10 years of studying passion is that passion has 5 levels to it. The very basic level of passion is born in our curiosity. What are you curious about? That's where it's born. Think back to when you were a kid and you discovered something new and you wanted to learn more about it, and you did. You went after it with a childlike wonder. We need to recapture that. So the second level of passion is the learning stage. You find something you're curious about, you start learning about it. The next stage is the excitement, the enthusiasm stage. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I like that. I want to learn more about it. I really enjoy it. I want to do it more. And then you move up another level, and that's the awareness stage of, oh, okay, this is what I like in my life. I want more of it. The very top level of passion is the recognition stage. Other people start recognizing your passion. They start associating you with that energy. So why don't most of us reach that top level? Here's why. The meaning behind the word passion is the willingness to suffer. Most of us are not willing to suffer for what we're passionate about. We're not willing to sell the house and buy an RV and live our dream life. Maybe there's fear. Maybe there's, what will other people think of me, or a belief system? That kind of stuff puts up a barrier for us. So we never get to the top, highest level of passion, because we let all that other stuff stop us.
I can certainly relate to your 5 levels of finding of passion, because it's funny, I didn't come about my passion by looking for it, but it did start with curiosity. For me, I've always enjoyed great conversation. I just love having a great conversation. And I say it all the time on this show that I was that kid in school that would always get in trouble no matter where she sat in the classroom, because she was talking. That's just who I was. And, it was, 2018, I got curious about podcasting. Never in any way did I connect that with my interest in good conversation. I just didn't make that connection, but I did get curious, and I did start learning, and I did move through those phases. And at the time of this recording for this episode, tomorrow I'll be releasing episode 200. So
Awesome.
did I expect it when I got curious? No, I didn't. It was just something, that looks like fun. I'll give it a try. And I think one of the other reasons why people don't reach that highest level is because when they first start and they're in that curious learning stage, that's also the stage where they're probably going to really suck at it. Like
Exactly.
when you first learned to ski or to water ski minus the skis on water, um, it was that's that willingness to suffer, that willingness to keep going ahead, even though you know you're not very good at it. And without the um, confidence, necessarily the knowing that you will be really good at it at some point in time. You just have to have that blind faith.
I think you hit on a very vital component is that most people don't want to look like a fool. They don't want to go through what I call the messy middle. The middle is extremely messy when you are learning, when you're trying to gain a skill, when you're trying to master something, but you need a little dose of grit.
Yes.
Get through that stage, and then you get to that high level because you start to realize, you start to feel, I can do it, or I'm willing to try harder, or I can't tell you how many times I face planted trying to learn how to barefoot on one foot, but the moment that I finally mastered it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna keep doing this, but you've got to get through that messy middle, and many people don't like getting dirty in the mess.
And it just came into my mind when you said when you finally were able to stand up on and do whatever you were trying to do, it instantly reminded me of the days when you're teaching your kids how to ride a bike, and that first time that you let go and they're coasting down the road, they think you're still holding on, and they've done it, and then they stop and they turn back and they look and they think, wow, I did it.
Doing it.
Yeah.
And
And
with that comes confidence and even more courage. And that's just the thing. If you can get through that messy middle, you find it's almost like it escalates exponentially. But a lot of people don't get to that because they're not willing to try harder. They're not willing to go through that mess. They're not willing to make sacrifices for passion. If you think about the marathon runner, they'll get up at 4:30 in the morning to run before going to work. And that's passion and purpose put together. And when you have passion and purpose put together, that's a powerful mix.
And I think somewhere along the line, a lot of people will turn the corner. And, because you mentioned earlier that things like belief and fear and judgment, they do hold us back. It affects everybody. I don't care who you are, it will affect you. But somewhere along the line, while you're going through these 5 levels, at some point you turn a corner and you realize, well, wait a second. Why am I afraid of what somebody else is going to think of me when they're not playing at this level? When I know they are letting fear hold them back. So why would their judgment even matter to me?
That's because you get into that place where you no longer hold the judgment in the belief system. You've shifted your belief system so that the judgment no longer matters with the passion. So that's what happens. That's when you are doing something that's authentically you, passion comes out. When you're passionate about something, you dive into that passion. And when you dive, that's when the judgment goes on the wayside. You no longer care because you have found something that's so authentically you that you want to keep that feeling and don't care about the judgment that's happening.
You still get fear, but it's at
You go through it.
You go through it because you do at some point realize that, okay, I've been through this before, and I realized that, yeah, it sucked at the beginning. but I got better. So this, whatever new thing I'm trying or learning, I may suck at the beginning, but it'll get better. It'll either get better or I'll realize that I actually do suck at it and maybe I should choose something different. Or, depending on how it is, if it falls within the realm of your business, well, then you just outsource it. If I'm not good at this and I need to learn it, well, then let's just give it to somebody else, see if they can do it.
And here's the thing, when you are very clear about your why and your passion and where you want to go, you're willing to go through the fear. So sometimes those steps of getting very clear on what you want, who you are, what you're about, and what your purpose is, allows you to harness that fear and go right through it. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I first flew down to Florida to barefoot water ski again, I was standing at my dock and I asked the world barefoot champion, "Are there alligators in this lake?" It didn't occur to me before that. And he looked at me and he laughed and he goes, "Yeah, there is alligators in this lake, but they won't bother you." Now, I had a deep-seated fear of alligators. So I had to make a decision right then and there. Was I going to give in to the fear or was I going to go for the passion? And I decided, well, if I got eaten alive by an alligator, as long as I barefooted first, it would be okay.
Yeah, things come up and we do have to make decisions. And that's where, as you said, your why and your passion, that's what's going to help you make those decisions. Because as much as we get used to working through fear will always be there. We just have to make friends with it.
Yes, that's a beautiful way of saying it.
Now, and you mentioned about getting clear on your why and what you want. And I think another thing that may derail people at the beginning, when they're first in that curious stage, is they want to have all of the answers right now. They want to know the ending. And they forget that it's not about the ending. It's about the journey that you took to get there. And you can get very impatient because you do want to be at that final fifth stage, but you can't go there unless you go through the other 4 stages to get there.
Exactly. You're a wise woman.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you interviewed 200 people for your book. What was the most surprising thing that you learned after 200 interviews?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. And I think, let me think about that for a minute. I think the most surprising thing for me came from an interview with a friend who worked at a cable company for years. For him, he created passion. The job wasn't a dream job, but he decided to create passion every day in the job. So we get there a half hour early and make coffee for everyone. His thing was serving people. And he got fulfilled from that. So that was one, was that we create our passion, even when we're in a job that may look or feel sucky at the moment. There are things you can do with passion in there that taps into who you are. The second interview wasn't even an interview. It was my friend Patty, and it was during a book club. And we were reading the book, What Happy Women Know. So we were all going around, the book club, talking about happiness. What does it mean? What does it look like for us? And Patty said in the conversation, she said, all of my entire life, all I wanted to be was a mom. I'm so happy being a mom. She was a mom of 4 kids. She goes, that's my passion. I don't have any passion for a career or a job or anything. She was almost apologetic about it. And it stuck with me because Patty died a couple of years later. She died. She had 4 children. But the point of that is that passion is not always this big, grand thing that people make it out to be, the career, the quitting your job, moving to an island. Passion is also the quiet nudge in your heart that whispers who you are, what you want. That was profound. And that was the ending of my book.
Wow. Yeah,
We
that
don't
is.
listen to those quiet nudges. They're so quiet, we ignore them.
We do, or we think that they're bigger than ourselves. And again, the fear kicks in. So I was going to ask you if you had any final words of wisdom, but I think that last part just completely summed it up beautifully. So how can people connect with you, Karen?
You can find me at karenpotts.com or yourpassionschool.com. I'm in both places. If you Google my name, you're guaranteed to find me. There's not a lot of puzzles out there.
If you are looking to connect with Karen, make sure you check out the show notes. I will have all of the links in there. And Karen, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. This was a fun conversation.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like a roller coaster, baby.